to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome and welcome back to Deep Sleep Stories. Tonight you are gently invited into a quiet world between seasons where you will wander beside a slowly melting river as winter loosens its careful hold and the water remembers how to move again. For now, let your body settle into the place where you rest. Feel the support beneath you, steady and unmoving. There is nothing you need to do, no tasks to finish, no decisions to make. Take a slow, easy breath in. Let it flow all the way down into your belly. And now exhale as softly as you can, like a long, quiet sigh. If it is comfortable, allow your eyes to close or let your gaze blur and grow heavy with every breath. Imagine your thoughts drifting downward like light flakes of snow, quiet and slow. Notice the shape of your body as it rests. Notice your head, your neck, your shoulders. Let your shoulders release their weight. Let your jaw relax, lips soft, tongue resting easily. Your hands can simply lie where they are, held by gravity, with no effort at all. On every exhale, imagine you are breathing out the day. Any noise, any worry, any rush, feel it leaving your body as a faint mist, dissolving into the air around you. On every inhale, invite in calm, just a little more space, a little more softness. Breath by breath, you are arriving here. You are entering a gentler rhythm, one that asks nothing of you. You are safe to rest. You are safe to drift. And as your body sinks more deeply into comfort, your mind begins to imagine another place, another evening, where the last snow is melting and a quiet river waits just beyond the trees. The story now moves on its own so you can float with it, without effort, as we step into the life of the one who walks beside the melting river. The last snow of winter had fallen days ago, and the world was holding its breath. Beside the river, the ice lay in long, pale sheets, cracked in places where narrow seams of dark water showed through like ink lines on a white page. The sun was still gentle, but every morning it lingered a little longer above the horizon, and the frozen surface felt its touch, warming, loosening, softening. In a small cottage tucked among bare-branched trees, a traveler woke to the sound of dripping. At first it wove itself into their dreams, a soft, steady tapping. Then as they grew more awake, the sound became clear. Drops of melt water fell from the eaves outside, down through the cool morning air, and landed with a faint musical plink in a shallow pool by the door. The traveler's name was Elen, though they rarely needed to hear it spoken here. There were no crowds, no busy streets, only the quiet company of trees, the cottage, and the ever-present river. Elen lay for a moment longer beneath the blankets, listening. Drip, drip, drip. It was the sound of the season changing, as gentle as breathing. They rose without hurry. The air inside the cottage was cool, edged with the faint scent of wood smoke from the banked stove. Elen moved through the familiar morning motions, each one simple and unhurried. They placed a pot of water on the stove, watched a pale ribbon of steam begin to curl upward, and wrap themselves in a soft wool cloak, the color of distant clouds. Outside, the sky was pale, almost pearly. A light mist hovered over the river, blurring the line between water and air. Elen opened the door and stepped out. The coolness of the late winter morning rushing over their cheeks. The snow around the cottage had begun to sink and smooth, its crisp edges softening. Here and there, dark patches of earth showed through, damp and fragrant. The world seemed to be exhaling, letting go of the rigid stillness of deep winter. Elen took a slow, deep breath, filling their lungs with fresh, cool air. They listened to the quiet, the distant river, the faint rustle of a breeze through branches, the steady drip of melting snow. Then they closed the door gently behind them and turned toward the path that led to the water. The way to the river was narrow and familiar. Snow still covered it in a thin, uneven layer. Each step of Elen's boots pressed through with a muffled crunch. Small twigs peeked out, freed from their icy covering. From somewhere ahead came a low, almost inaudible murmur, like someone whispering just out of sight. It was the river, waking, all through the frozen months. It had been hidden beneath unbroken ice, its song silenced, yet the water had gone on moving below, patient and unseen. Now the season of hiding was ending. When Elen reached the bank, they paused. Before them, the river stretched wide and quiet. Near the shore, the ice had fractured into small, jagged shapes, like shards of cloudy glass. Dark water slipped between them, slow and shy at first. Farther out, the ice remained mostly whole, but it was no longer smooth. Subtle ridges and cracks traced pale lines across its surface. The sound of the melt was everywhere. Tiny trickles slid between stone and ice. Soft creaks rose as the river shifted beneath its frozen skin. Here and there, a drop fell from an overhanging branch onto the ice, making a clear, glassy note that rang for a heartbeat, then faded back into silence. Elen drew their cloak closer and began to walk along the river water's edge. The path followed the natural curves of the land, at times drawing close to the water, at times winding through small stands of trees. Snow-laden bushes leaned in, their branches bending low like listeners, leaning toward a quiet tale. Elen's steps were slow and unhurried, each one linking them more deeply to the stillness of the morning. They let their eyes wander gently over the details that the thaw revealed. A patch of moss, bright as emerald against the muted snow. A single brown leaf, freed from its icy covering, lying in a shallow puddle and slowly unfurling as it soaked. Tiny air bubbles caught beneath thin ice, shining silver whenever a shy beam of sunlight broke through the clouds. Above, a pair of small birds moved from branch to branch. They did not sing yet. They simply rustled quietly in the bare trees, as if making sure that everything was ready before they filled the forest with sound again. The river's voice grew a little stronger as Elen walked. In some places, slender channels of open water joined together into wider ribbons. The current moved slowly, yet with a certainty that nothing could stop for long. Where the water slipped over hidden stones, it frothed in tiny, playful eddies. Where it flowed smoothly, it held the reflections of the branches above like dark glass. Elen paused where the bank dipped lower and crouched. They reached out a gloved hand to touch the ice. It felt rough where it was thinning, damp and layered, almost like stone that had begun to remember it was water. Beneath, a steady, unseen movement pressed gently forward. They remained there for a while, listening. The morning was not in a hurry, and neither were they. Time seemed to move at the pace of the melting ice, slow and inevitable. After a time, Elen rose and continued their walk. The path led them beneath a tall stand of trees, bare branches weaving together overhead like the ribs of a great sleeping creature. From those branches, droplets fell in a slow, steady pattern. Some landed on the snow with a quiet hiss, melting tiny hollows. Some brushed Elen's cloak, leaving small, cool marks that faded as the wool warmed them. The colors around them were gentle and subdued, soft whites, grays, and browns, hints of green where hardy mosses and needles had never fully disappeared. And always the deep, promising blue-black of moving water wherever the ice had opened. Far ahead, the river curved behind a low hill. Elen knew that beyond that bend lay a small clearing, a place where the ground leveled out beside the water. They had sat there many times in other seasons, listening to the river's different songs. Today, something in the quiet air called them there again. Their breath matched their steps, steady and slow, in and out. In and out, with each breath, a little more of their inner stillness settled. like snow that has finished falling and now lies peacefully on the ground. When they reached the bend, the river greeted them with a new pattern. The ice had broken more completely here. Broad pieces had tilted and overlapped, creating small, angular islands that floated low in the water. Between them, wider veins of dark current slipped through, smooth and sure. The sound of the melt was clearer, a soft and constant murmur. On the opposite bank, last year's grasses lay flattened. Their pale stalks leaned toward the water, some of them just touching the surface. With every ripple they trembled, writing tiny circles on the dark skin of the river. Ellen stepped into the clearing. It was a simple, open space bordered by young trees and shrubs. In warmer months, the ground would disappear beneath ferns and wildflowers. Now it held a quieter beauty, a small, level world of snow, dark earth, and stone. At its center rested a flat, wide rock, just high enough to sit comfortably upon. Snow lay in a thin crust across its top. Ellen brushed it gently aside with one hand, revealing the smooth, cold stone beneath, and settled down. The rock held them firmly, its coolness steady and comforting. Ellen adjusted their cloak around their legs and lifted their gaze to the river. They did not search for anything in particular. They simply watched and listened, letting their attention stay soft and wide. The river's song wrapped itself around them. There was the continuous hush of water sliding past, the delicate crackle of ice as it loosened grain by grain, occasional soft clicks where fragments knocked gently together. Overhead, the faint drip of melting snow from branches added a slow, patient rhythm. As Ellen listened, their thoughts drifted as quietly as the ice. They remembered the river in other seasons, rushing and bright in spring, lazy and sunlit in summer, reflective and leaf-strewn in autumn. Yet this moment, when nothing was quite one season or another, felt especially gentle. It was an in-between place. Not fully winter, not yet spring. A time when change arrived not with sudden storms, but with small, repeated gestures. A drop of water, a crack in ice, a breath of soft air. The river surrendered its frozen cover in the same way a person releases tension slowly when they remember it is safe to relax. Ellen thought of the frozen places inside themselves, old worries like patches of hard ice, old sorrows that had felt heavy and still. They did not have to be shattered all at once. Instead, gentle warmth could find its way in, little by little, the way the sun touched the river. A kind word here, a quiet rest there, a breath taken all the way in and all the way out. Their shoulders softened. Their hands lay easy in their lap. The small muscles along their face and neck settled into a deep, untroubled calm. Mist drifted low over the water, thin and pale. For a moment it parted, and Ellen saw something that might have been nothing or might have been more. A slender, luminous shape seemed to glide just above the surface of the river, following its winding path. It was the color of moonlight on water, shifting with each tiny ripple. It did not speak. It simply moved where the current led, quiet and serene. Perhaps it was only the way the light fell on a moving patch of mist. Perhaps it was a trick of tired eyes. Yet Ellen felt in that brief shimmering a sense of companionship, as if the river itself had a wandering spirit, and that spirit was pleased to be seen, even if only for a heartbeat. The mist closed again, and the shape disappeared. The river returned to its gentle, earthly song. Ellen felt no need to search for the vision again. They trusted that the river would show them what it wished, when it wished, and that it would keep its deeper secrets folded calmly within its currents. They sat a while longer on the stone, watching. A narrow crack widened almost imperceptibly along a band of ice. A small fragment broke free and turned slowly in a little whirlpool, catching the light, then drifting away. A bird landed in a shrub nearby, shook droplets from its feathers, and then hopped off again, leaving tiny tracks in the snow. Eventually, the chill of the stone began to seep through Ellen's cloak. They rose, feeling the pleasant heaviness of relaxation in their limbs. Their walk was not finished yet. The river still had more of its quiet path to share. They continued along the bank, following a trail that led through closer grown trees. The ground undulated gently beneath the snow, hiding rocks and roots. Ellen stepped carefully but without worry, trusting their familiarity with the land. Every so often, they would glance sideways to find the river, as if to confirm that it was still there, still flowing, still singing. Whenever the path drew nearer again, Ellen slowed. The sound of the water carried a quiet assurance. Nothing stays frozen forever. Even the hardest winters pass. Even the stillest places remember how to move. The afternoon deepened gently. The sun remained veiled behind clouds, but the light shifted toward blue, softening edges and deepening shadows. The mist over the river thickened, smoothing away sharp lines until the whole world seemed made of blurred contours and soft grays. At a place where the river widened slightly, the water slowed into a calm, shallow pool. In summertime, animals would gather there to drink. Now its surface was mostly covered in a thin layer of cloudy ice, but along one side a smooth curve of open water showed. Ellen drew near and knelt at the edge. The water was so still that it held a faint, wavering reflection of Ellen's face. It was not sharp, more suggestion than portrait, but it was enough. The eyes that gazed back looked softer than Ellen remembered, less burdened, as if some inner ice had already begun to thaw. They dipped a gloved fingertip into the water. It was cold, yes, but not unfriendly. They drew gentle circles on the surface, watching rings of ripples drift outward. Each circle reached farther than the last, nudging small pieces of ice, rocking them gently. When the surface smoothed again, Ellen rose. The day was leaning quietly toward evening now. The sky dimmed. The forest grew more hushed. One by one, the small details of color faded, leaving a world of soft grays and deepening shadow. Ellen turned back toward the cottage. They walked the same path along the river, yet everything looked a shade different in the new light. More ice had loosened. New openings of water gleamed darkly. The river's murmur seemed a fraction fuller, as if it had found its voice once more, though it still spoke in whispers. As Ellen walked, they felt that their thoughts were less crowded than before. Ideas and memories that had pressed close now drifted gently at a distance, carried along by the slow current of the day. A quiet trust settled in their chest. Just as the river did not need to force its thaw, they did not need to force their own release. They could allow it to unfold at its own kind, measured pace. The cottage appeared at last, sturdy and familiar among the trees. A thin line of smoke rose from the chimney, drawing a soft, gray streak into the sky. The sight filled Ellen with warmth that had little to do with temperature, a warmth of belonging. They paused for a moment at the edge of the clearing, listening. Through the trunks and branches, the river's voice reached them still, a soft, steady hush. It would flow on through the coming night, unseen but ceaseless, just as it had flowed beneath the ice all winter. Ellen stepped forward and opened the door. Inside, the air greeted them with gentle warmth, and the faint fragrance of dried herbs hung from the rafters. They slipped off their boots, hung their cloak near the stove, and moved easily through the small space, lighting a candle on the table. The flame brightened slowly, painting a golden circle on the wooden surface. Evening unfolded with the same quiet pace as the walk. Ellen warmed a bowl of soup, listening to the soothing, delicate sounds of simmering. They sat by the window as they ate, spoon moving slowly from bowl to lips, as if matching the pace of the river's current outside. The light beyond the glass dimmed by degrees, the trees fading into silhouettes against the softening sky. When the bowl was empty, Ellen remained at the window, gazing out. Between the trunks, they could see a thin gleam of the river. In the fading light, it glowed a silvery gray. The ice and open water blending into one gentle tone. Mist hovered close to the ground, drifting like a slow, quiet breath. Elen's own breath grew deeper as they watched. Their eyelids felt heavier with each exhale. Their body relaxed into the chair, the wood beneath them firm and familiar. The calm of the river seemed to seep through the glass, pooling in the corners of the room. After a time, they rose and prepared for sleep. They placed another small log into the stove, watching the flames accept it, curling gently around the new wood. They changed into softer clothing, the fabric warm against skin, cooled by the walk. They smoothed the blanket on the small bed tucked against the wall, the motion slow and unhurried. When they finally lay down, the bed embraced their weight. The pillow cradled their head. The blanket settled over them like a gentle, protective wave. From outside, the muted song of the river drifted through the night air. From inside, the quiet ticking of cooling metal and the faint crackle of embers answered, together, weaving a lullaby. Elen closed their eyes. They did not try to summon sleep. They simply allowed themselves to rest. Behind their eyelids, they saw again the slow-moving river, the pale ice breaking, the dark water flowing steadily beneath. Their thoughts began to move more slowly, like pieces of ice turning gently in a current. One by one, they floated past and away, carrying the remnants of the day with them. Elen did not follow. They stayed here in the quiet center of their own stillness, while the river of thought flowed calmly onward. Outside, the first faint star slid into view through a thin opening in the clouds. Its light was soft, barely there, yet it touched the mist, the trees, the shifting ice. It touched the roof of the small cottage and then continued its endless journey. Inside, Elen's breath deepened. Their features relaxed completely. Their hands rested open on the blanket. Sleep rose around them like deep water, buoyant and gentle, and they allowed themselves to float, supported and safe. The river kept watch. Through the dark hours, while ice continued to loosen and water continued to move, it whispered a low, patient song. A song of change that does not rush, of seasons that always return, of rest that prepares the way for new beginnings. And while the river flowed quietly under the night sky, the traveler in the little cottage slept peacefully, wrapped in dreams as soft as mist and as quiet as slow-moving water. Now, as you rest here, listening from your own quiet place, you can let your thoughts wander once more to that melting river. You have walked beside it in your imagination. You have seen the ice soften and crack. You have heard the low, patient song of water moving forward without hurry. With each breath out, allow yourself to melt a little too. Let your shoulders sink Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands grow heavy and still. You do not need to hold anything up right now. You do not need to follow any thought that drifts past. If memories or worries appear, you can picture them as small pieces of ice sliding on the river's surface. They move past you, slowly, gently, carried by a current that knows exactly where it is going. You are not the ice. You are the quiet shore, resting and watching, safe and unmoving. Feel the surface beneath your body, solid and kind. Feel the weight of blankets or covers like a soft snowfall settling around you. Your breath moves in and out, smooth and easy, like water flowing under a thin skin of ice. There is nothing more to do. The day is over, the night is friendly. Sleep can rise around you as quietly as mist along the riverbank. Let your thoughts grow softer now. Let your breathing guide you downward, slow and sure. Rest now, dear traveler. The river keeps watch. The night is kind. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.